Here's the economic update for May 24th, 2026. Just a reminder, it's planting season, and with the high price of fertilizer and diesel, I expect basically food crops to go up over the next year. So when we actually buy food about a year from now after the harvest, we're going to see a dramatic increase in food prices. So stock up while you can. Retail and food sales, May 14th, 757.1 billion. This is up 0.5% month over month and up 4.9% year over year. So those are pretty good growth numbers. However, do realize that our inflation is quite high as well. So I don't know how much of this is just from inflation. When we look at real estate, we have existing home sales that came out and pending home sales. So existing home sales, we're at 4.02 million homes that were sold. This is no change year over year. We're at 1.47 million for sale. This is up 1.4% year over year. We have 4.4 months supply. If you're at 6 months, that's a balanced market. 4.4, you're still overall in a seller's market, but it's regional. So I'll get into that in a little bit. Our median home price has gone up 0.9%. This is now currently at $417,700. Do note that the home prices are increasing slower than people's income. So hopefully that allows some people to start being able to re-enter the housing market at some point in the near future. On May 19th, we got our pending home sales. Month over month are up 1.4%, and year over year we're up 3.2%. So those are good. They're in a positive direction at the very least. If we look at the Midwest, we're up 2.7%. The South up 4.7%. The West, we're at 3.8%, and they grew at that pace year over year. The Northeast, however, fell 0.6% year over year, but is making gains. It grew 6.6% in the prior month over month numbers. So it's heading back in the right direction. I don't see major cracks across large areas. There are some metropolitans that have taken a dive and others that have grown pretty significantly in the last year or two. The leading economic index, May 22nd for the US, we were up 0.1% month over month. It's headed in the right direction. However, we were down 0.6% over the last 6 months. Even though we're down 0.6%, it's negative, but it's not negative enough to signal a recession anymore. It's not signaled a recession for several months at this point. Part of the reason why it's up month over month, one is the stock market prices, and the other one is increasing building permits. So if you can build more homes, more people can buy them. It makes homes more affordable, puts a lot of people to work. So those are good things. If we look at the coincident economic index, that is also up 0.3%, and it's up 0.8% for the last 6 months. If this turns negative, that would give you an idea that you are currently in a recession. Both of these are positive, so that's not a worry at this point in time. If they were negative, then you would worry that you're currently in an economic recession. On May 4th, the Global Economic Index came out. Brazil, Korea, France, and the US were increasing. Mexico is holding steady. Basically, the rest of the countries were on a decline. So that's not necessarily headed in the right direction. And overall, the global leading economic index is going down. If we look at manufacturing, this came out on May 1st. The ISM came out. The economy is growing for the 18th month in a row. Manufacturing is growing for the 4th month in a row. Prices are increasing faster than they were. Employment is contracting faster than it was. If we look at our GDP, or gross domestic product, first quarter of 2026 is plus 2%, so that's headed in the right direction. Second quarter of 2026 is estimated currently at plus 4.3%. If that comes out to be true, it's a pretty high number. We had our business leaders survey in the beginning of May. This came out on May 18th. This is through the New York Fed. Basically, this is more of the Northeast of the U.S. This has service sector has been declining. Business activity rose. Business climate rose, but both these two are still negative. Price increases in the inputs are very steep. Employment is higher, but the wages aren't really growing that fast. And the supply availability has worsened. So everything here is kind of like things aren't that great, but they're headed in the right direction, but they're not great at the moment. So I'll continue to watch that. So how's the consumer doing? May 22nd, we got an update on the survey of consumers. The index of consumer sentiment is down 10% month over month, down 14.2% year over year. The current economic conditions were down 12.8% month over month, and we're down 22.2% year over year. So that's pretty steep. The index of consumer expectations is down 8.3% month over month, down 7.9% year over year. So all of these are negative. The consumer is a bit worried, and most people are not thinking it's too good at the moment. Consumers were also asked how do they feel about personal finances, business conditions, and inflation. And the general consensus is that in the short term, they're going to be very bad. Long term, they're going to be bad, but not as bad as the short term. So it won't be as bad in the longer run. The Fed had its last FOMC meeting on April 29th. They decided to hold the interest rates for the overnight rate for the Fed at 3.5 to 3.75%. They said that the economic activity expanded at a solid pace, job gains still remained low, and unemployment little changed. Inflation remained elevated, and they had some concern with rising fuel prices. And remember, this is back in April. Looking back through March and April, the U.S. and Iran conflict was going on at that point with the Strait of Hormuz. It's effectively blockaded, depending on how you want to look at it, but ships aren't really moving through it. So if we talk about inflation for a moment, you have a couple of different ways to measure that. So on April 30th, we had our personal consumption expenditures at 3.5% rising. Our personal consumption expenditures, the core, that's if you exclude food and energy, the more volatile of them, you're at 3.2%. For May 13th, we had our Producers Price Index, our PPI. This was at 6% and rising. And the PPI core, again, excluding food and energy, you're at 4.4% and going up. May 12th, we had our Consumer Price Index, our CPI, at 3.8% and rising. And our CPI core minus food and energy was 2.8%. So the concern here is that inflation is running high. The Fed has a mandate. Some people call it a dual mandate, but there's a third that just doesn't get talked about. One, you target stable prices. They declare that 2% is, a good stable price. It's still increasing, but not rapidly. The other one is to have maximum employment. You shouldn't see unemployment going up or people losing jobs. The third one that doesn't really get mentioned is you need to be able to have long-term borrowing rates that are fairly stable as well. So you don't want to have huge national debt and borrow on that, or borrow for a house, or borrow for business purposes, whatever it might be, over a long duration, and then have to pay an exorbitant amount of interest. So that's going to be a bit harder to handle, I think, at the moment. Then talking about maximum employment, let's look at jobs. So jobs, if you look at May 6th, the ADP number came out. We added 109,000 jobs in April. If you look at the Bureau of Labor and Statistics on May 8th, they said we added 115,000 jobs in April. So these two, for once, are actually not that far off. The BLS revised up its March numbers to 185,000, and it's revised its numbers down for February at a loss of 156,000 jobs. So that's a bit of a large drop. I don't like to see a drop gain. Like, it's been kind of going back and forth. So we're not actually adding that many jobs month over month. The last 2 months, yes, but if you look over past 6 months, it's not been too great. So where are the jobs being created? They've been created in healthcare, transportation, warehousing, retail, trade, and social assistance. If we look at the unemployment rate, we're currently at 4.3%, and it's overall going up over the last couple of years, trending from about 3.4, 3.5% now to 4.3%. An area of concern I have is teen unemployment and African American unemployment. Why do I bring these groups up? Well, traditionally, these are the groups that tend to lead unemployment, and then the rest of the general unemployment will follow. So if teen unemployment is rising and it's at 14.4%, and African American unemployment is now at 7.3%. And it's dipped a little bit recently, but if you look over the past couple of years, it's been going up, at a pretty steady pace. That's getting up there. So if those are going up, you'll tend to see this one go up. If we look, we have 7.4 million unemployed people. Do recognize that the labor force participation rate is dropped. It's now at 61.8%. So this number is actually much higher than 7.4 million people because it's not counting people that are part-time working or, they didn't look for a job in the past 4 weeks. There's a whole bunch of people that are not accounted for there. So it's more like double that number. 27-week plus unemployment now accounts for 25.3% of all people on unemployment. What does that mean? That means that people that are on unemployment, over a quarter of them have been unemployed for at least 6 months. So that's going to come into play where I'm talking about emergency funds next. On May 5th, we had our JOLTS report. We have 6.9 million open jobs, and there's 7.4 million unemployed people. Again, there's more than this, but by the definition of unemployment, 7.4 million. So if you took those two numbers, there's 1.1 unemployed people per open job. So even if everybody got a job, there's not enough jobs for the people to get. So we need more job creation. We need more entrepreneurs to basically hire people and do that sort of thing. So with all this information, what am I doing with my money? Well, first and foremost, I don't have any high interest debt. I don't carry credit card debt or anything like that. I pay everything off. Basically, debt at 20-something% interest is going to generally be higher than the stock market returns or any other assets. So I tend not to like to carry any balances like that. Now, if I have a low interest mortgage on a home, which I do, that's okay to keep around for a bit, but I'm trying to pay that down as quick as possible. Next thing I do is I make sure that I have a 6-month emergency fund, and this is kept in CDs, high yield savings, something that's FDIC. The reason being is why 6 months? Well, people are unemployed for 6+ months, and that's a quarter of people on unemployment. So I need to be able to, weather that storm. The second thing is any money I need in less than 5 years, I also keep that in CDs, high yield savings, that sort of thing. Again, FDIC. So this would be like I'm buying a car, I like to pay it off in cash, or I'm getting married, or I'm retiring, or any of those things. I want to have that 5 years worth of cash. Any money I don't need for at least 5 years, that's where I'm using dollar cost averaging. And what I'm doing is I'm putting 70 to 80% into the S&P 500. I'm putting 10 to 20% into the total international funds, and I'm putting 0 to 10% in long bonds. Now, previously, I used to put about 10% into bonds, long-term bonds. I'm getting a little concerned with these because the interest rates are moving in the opposite direction. So if interest rates go up, bond value goes down. I was hoping for the interest rates to drop because inflation was coming down, but jobs were starting to be lost. So if you had a lot of job losses and inflation wasn't the risk, the Fed would then start buying up bonds and dropping interest rates, which would then increase existing bond value. Now what I'm seeing is that there's a bigger risk with higher inflation, and then the Fed may actually start to increase interest rates again, not drop them. So I have to see between these. I'm not buying any more of the long bonds. I'm still buying about 80% S&P, 20% total international, and 0 additional long bonds for the moment. But I do hold a considerable amount of long bonds at the moment. I also like to invest into various businesses. So I invest in my farm stand, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, education. And I also hold gold, silver, copper. I make body armor, aluminum ingots, that sort of thing, a whole bunch of other metals. And if I see any good business ideas, I'll invest in those as well. One I thought was pretty interesting today is I was at a mall, and the vending machine was stocked with basically everything, a mother or a father would need for a young infant or whatever. It had Desitin, baby wipes, formula, bottles, bibs, Cheez-Its and goldfish and all kinds of like juice drinks and anything you can think of that a little kid would want. Uh, and it was at a very high traffic space. And I was like, that's a great idea. I might have to take that to a couple of different places. So I'm not going to do that at the moment. So if anybody wants, that's an idea as well. I hope you find this information useful. I cover a lot of topics such as how to make more money, how to save, how to invest, how to be an entrepreneur, how do you start businesses, how do you limit your risk, all those topics and more. So if you're interested, subscribe. Welcome aboard. Thank you for watching and have a great day.